morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode 10 of The Season Keepers, the show where the only two people we recommend keeping for the season is us. My name's Matt, aka Clean Sheet Wipeout.
My name's James, aka FPL Drug.
You're right, dude. Episode 10. How you feeling?
Yeah, we made it. It's good. 10 episodes. I'm proud.
Double figures. Can't complain about that, can we?
No, not at all.
How's your week been?
Yeah, all right. I actually got some shit done at the weekend
Wow.
considering we had no football. I do love watching games back to back, but it's nice to have that bit of spare time with your friends and family.
It was definitely nice not having to worry about my FPL team this weekend, and I didn't even start the overhaul team until yesterday, so it was just a bit of a refresh. Always feels good, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does.
Right, we've got a lot to talk about, so should we crack on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, I think we should focus on internationals to start with. Obviously, we've had the international break. Maybe chat a bit about England. So we got that 3-0 win against Wales, which everybody was celebrating. Danny Ings got his goal, and so did DCL.
Fantastic goal. I'm proud of him. Just need Southgate to start him regularly.
Yeah, I can't see that happening though. Can you?
No, he has his favourites, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, Calvert-Lewin got his debut goal as well. So it's good to see. You know, whilst Harry Kane's out, there's people that are there can score the goals. And Jack Grealish played brilliantly from what I watched.
Yeah, replicating his form with Villa. I think obviously Villa fans are crying for him to start over the likes of Mount and so on.
Yeah,
be interesting to see how that plays out.
Got the biscuit stuck in your mouth there, mate.
I certainly did.
You've got Southgate seemingly likes Mount though, doesn't he? That's the problem. I know he got a goal against Belgium, but it was a very lucky goal. And I didn't even notice Mount was playing for the first 45 minutes in that Belgium game. But England were shocking in the first 45 minutes. Tactically, I think we were so defensive. Yeah,
it was just a couple of pens, wasn't it? Yeah, it's not what you want to see. Like that's often what happens with international games. They're a bit dreary. Players sort of figuring out how they're supposed to be playing, what system they're supposed to be playing.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I guess.
Carry on.
I was going to say, like Belgium's obviously more of a test than Wales, so hence why we looked a bit worse. I'd say, obviously in that game. Are there any players you think that should be included in the squad that aren't currently included?
Probably Mikel Antonio for me. I thought he deserved a call-up, maybe over some of the others there. Obviously, we have not got Foden or Greenwood in this squad because of their COVID problems in the last round of fixtures. So I think there's a lot of players in and around the team that are probably pushing for the Euros. And there's a lot of choice. It's just whether Southgate makes the right decisions, really, because he seems to have his favourites and not all of them everybody agrees with. Yeah,
agreed. I think, Antonio's raw physicality and pace, I think, would be handy on the international stage. I think he deserves it. Deserves a chance. Like, I don't think he could play any better without being called up.
No, agreed. I think he kind of knows that himself, you know, from interviews and stuff that we've seen. It's a shame, but we'll have to wait and see. The other thing I want to mention is Scotland. We got through in the playoff semi-final, albeit a really shit 0-0 result against Israel that led to penalties, and we actually won a penalty shootout. But obviously a Scot at heart, so I was absolutely buzzing. I still think we'll get smashed by Serbia, but that's a different story for 3 weeks' time, I think. So
yeah, it's not old Dusan Tadic putting the knife in.
Oh no! Between him and Mitrovic, I'm incredibly worried. But we'll have to see, mate. I'll either be in tears or absolutely buzzing on Twitter. So I guess the other thing with the internationals, it's something I've seen mentioned, and we've mentioned it previously as well, is COVID. How do you feel about the internationals being played in the way that they are, given the current pandemic?
I feel friendlies, for one, are just completely unnecessary. Ordinarily, yeah, they're a good idea, but not when there's a global pandemic. I think it's ludicrous. I can understand the rationale to some extent for the Nations League games because that depends on qualification and so on. But even so, you should value health of the entire world over friendlies and even qualifiers.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I think it was crazy that I understood the games, like obviously you've got Norway, Ireland, they all had very important qualifiers. Scotland against Israel was an important qualifier for the Euros. But do we really need, like Portugal to play away against France, a friendly, or even the England-Wales friendly? Like, you're breaking bubbles to kind of get teams together. And I know you've got the selected bubbles for the Premier League squads and people are still testing positive, but we've seen Cristiano Ronaldo's tested positive today. Albeit apparently asymptomatic, and they've tested the Portugal squad and they're negative. But that's not to say in a couple of days' time there's a couple more positive tests. Now, Wolves have got half their squad on that Portugal team, so they come back, you've got Premier League issues again.
Well, yeah, certainly. Wolves wouldn't have many people left. I think bringing everyone from all over the world together to play football is a stupid idea. Like, you're increasing the chance of it all spreading, to be honest.
Exactly. Well, I think that's enough on internationals for now. I know we've got a few more days before we can set aside our FPL teams, but I think we should jump onto Sky Fantasy Football, because that's what we said we were going to talk about primarily, and we're both new to the game. I think we've got a lot to say, don't we?
Yeah, we certainly do. I'd like to go ahead and share my screen and show you my team first.
Yeah, for those on YouTube, we can see your current overhaul.
If you allow me to do so, Matthew.
As always.
Okay, so here we go. Here is my Black Hole Sun team. Currently subject to change, but we have Martinez in goal, back three of Van Dijk, Size and Castagne. In midfield, we have KDB, Antonio, Grealish and Rodriguez, with a front three of Vardy, Calvert-Lewin and Jimenez.
Okay, so you've got a couple of double ups on teams there.
Yeah, we've got double Leicester, got double Wolves, double Villa.
Yeah, double Villa as well.
But don't really count with a goalkeeper, in my opinion.
No, it's understandable. It's just it's captaincy cover, isn't it, for some?
True.
But that's an interesting team. I think DCL is obviously one that not many people had in their original Sky teams, and where we're restricted to transfers in Sky, so you only get 40 per the season. It's not like FPL where you can take hits. A lot of people didn't bring him in as such, did they, until overhaul. If you just click on him, what's his percentage ownership just now? Oh, okay, so he's gone up to 23%. Blimey.
36 in the
36% in the top 1K. Oh. So yeah, he's one that a lot of people are throwing into their overhaul teams then.
Yeah, so the rationale behind that is, well, he's not in my FPL team, so I've got to put him in somewhere so I can keep on every single goal that he scores. I was obviously very impressed with Grealish, so he's in my team. I think he was already in this team. He was already in one of them to capitalise on that display against Liverpool.
Yep.
I wanted Size because of the fixtures. Castagne has been great so far this season, so that's a no-brainer. Jimenez, again, fixtures, and he will reward me, I'm sure. Vardy, Villa at home next. Vardy, I can rely on Vardy. I don't really care too much about his fixtures, to be honest.
Pens,
whoever he plays, there's always a chance of him returning.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to my second team, which is my better ranked team at 4K. So I've still got Ramsdale in goal, Van Dijk, Size and Castagne again in the back three. I've just realised.
Okay, so yeah, you're doubling up on the defensive assets and both.
Yeah. So going all out there with the three defenders. A midfield four of De Bruyne, Antonio, Grealish, and this time Robinson, because he's a striker really, but in the game he's a midfielder. So I think that's a great shout. 3 out of 4 again though then. Replacing Dean Garner, and then a front three of Kane, Calvert-Lewin and Salah, which I think is a quite tasty front three. Very tasty front three. I like that. Yeah, it's interesting that you've gone down the route of having 7 of the same players across both teams. Yeah, it's one way to play it, that's for sure. Well, I guess like my rationale is like I'm confident in those players returning, so I might as well put them in both. Obviously, you can balance your risk and reward with having a different spread across both teams. Yeah, of course. But I'm confident in what I'm doing, so therefore I'm doing it in both. No, with a slight bit of differentiation.
And you've got the captaincy covers there as well, because obviously I think it's for game week 5. You've got the issue of it's the Leeds Wolves game on the Monday night. That's the only one. So you've got Wolves coverage. The following week it's Burnley Tottenham. So you've got the Spurs coverage there with Harry Kane. You didn't have any of the Burnley Tottenham coverage in your first team though, did you?
No. Was it Burnley Tottenham? Wasn't it Tottenham
Yeah.
West Ham? Or
No,
am I different game week?
different game week.
So which game week are you referring to?
So game week 7? No, game week 6.
So which game day?
Yes, so we're going into game week 6. Game day 3, so the Monday, you've got Leeds versus Wolves.
Yeah.
So you've got that coverage. But for game week 7,
okay, game week 7.
you've got the issue of Burnley Tottenham is the Monday fixture. So are you comfortable going into that game week? Obviously, you could make a transfer if you wanted to, but are you comfortable going into that game week not having any Spurs or Burnley assets?
Or Brighton or West Brom, yeah.
And then, for the following week, so game week 8, you've got Leeds Leicester there. And I know that you've got Castagna, so you've got the coverage there if you needed it.
Yeah, that's fine. I think
it's just that game week 7 you might want to
consider.
I
think I remembered this actually at the time when I was doing it, that I may have to do a transfer for that one to ensure I have a captain. So I guess what I could look at is, what could I do? It's a tricky one.
It is, yeah.
Could move Vardy for 1 week, but because obviously Vardy's away at Arsenal, and I could move to say a Kane or a Son. Son's a striker in this, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so I could move to Son. But yeah, something I'm gonna have to think about.
Yeah, it's just one for those for us new players and for anybody out there. I think spreadsheets and stuff really, really help in this game. I've personally got the spreadsheet from Ian Parron from the Fantasy Football Hub. I signed up to them mainly specifically for this spreadsheet. I know you've got your own little one that you've developed too, isn't it? So it's very
just a very basic spreadsheet, but just having one is a great idea to keep track. It doesn't have to be complicated. Nope. I mean, there's some great resources out there, so by all means use them. But at the very least, you want to do some basic planning on just an Excel spreadsheet or a piece of paper.
Yeah, and it also helps to keep track of the amount of transfer you've made, because I think in the game you have to kind of go back on to see the transfers that you've done, and also to kind of view like we're talking about captaincies, because there might be that one game where you're like, shit, I haven't got coverage for that Monday, and it could well be a Brighton versus West Brom, and people aren't really likely to jump on them, so maybe it's not worth the transfer. But if you've got a game such as Spurs, Burnley, or whatnot, people will be owning Spurs players quite heavily as well. So maybe you don't want to miss out on that, because say a 35% owned Son goes off and people have got the captaincy, you're suddenly 60 points behind.
Yeah. So, that's one to think about. After KDB's injuries confirmed, whether he's starting, whether he's fine.
Well, yeah, we'll find out about that, won't we? All right, I will share my screen and show you my overhaul teams. So here we go. So I'll go to Hanging by a Thread. This team's currently ranked 2,367th. 2 transfers used. So for the overhaul team for this, I've gone Patricia in goal, Robertson, Dallas, and Ben White. Then I've gone KDB, Harvey Barnes, Grealish, Bruno Fernandes, and James Rodriguez. And then up top, I've gone Heung-min Son and Salah. I've gone Son over Kane in this one because he's a little bit cheaper. And it meant I could kind of go a bit bigger in midfield. It meant, a Harvey Barnes over someone that was slightly cheaper. And I've also then been able to throw in Bruno Fernandes. I really want the Man United coverage, particularly for, I think it's game week 8, where they've got Newcastle, Everton, and Man United, Arsenal. So I could potentially go down the Everton route with James Rodriguez, but I really fancy Bruno. So I thought I'd have to have him in the squad there. And I've also gone Robertson over VVD. Now, we've got a question about this later, so I won't touch on it too much. But VVD was deemed as essential to us at the start of this game as newbies, but I'm not so sure it is this season. But maybe that's just because the way the season started. So we'll have to see. But that's my A team. And then my B team, which is actually doing better than my A team, is ranked 1037th with 2 transfers used. I've gone, again, Patricia in goal. So I just want the Wolves coverage from my keeper. For me, Jimenez is a very good player, but he only ever scores or seems to score 1 or none. I've never really seen him haul that much. And that's the worry is, if Wolves were to keep a clean sheet and Jimenez was to score a goal, I think Patricia would end up on more points than Jimenez would. So I'm just potentially going to go down the captaincy route of that for Wolves.
Unless he obviously gets the man of the match, Jimenez maybe.
Yeah, if he scores the winning goal, he could get the man of the match. He could hit shot here. But yeah, I just fancy Patricia just for that coverage there. And I'm trying to spread the teams out a little bit. So I'm trying to go for at least 9 different teams as coverage. So in the back line, I've gone Van Dijk, and then I've got the double up of Ayling and Dallas. This is mainly because, one, I think they've got very good attacking potential. But in the previous game weeks, for instance, Dallas hit shot tier. For a fullback to hit shot tier, I think is brilliant. So I want to jump on Dallas. And at the moment, he's a bit of a differential. So he's only owned by 3% of teams, as you can see here. But it's 12% in the top 1K. And then Ayling is very similar. Again, he was hitting tackle tier, and he did the same, I believe, the Man City game. So both the Sheffield United and Man City game. And he's only owned by 4% of the game. So I just fancied a couple of cheaper defenders that are a bit of a differential. And then I've gone KDB, Mikel Antonio, Christian Pulisic, and James Rodriguez. And then Kane, Vardy, and Neil Maupay, because I really fancy Neil Maupay in this game. He's going to start, I think, every game. Obviously, he's got a couple of goals in him. He's hit shot tier for one of his games. He's on pens. And if I need that coverage from, say, a Brighton, he's the one that's in there for me. Pulisic, I'm a bit concerned about. I don't know if he'll have the minutes straight away. And the one that I'm really not overly sure about having in both teams is James Rodriguez, because he'll either go big or it'll be a 2-pointer. And I don't really want a 2-pointer in my team there. So
I think if he does get a 2-pointer against Liverpool, though, I would hold, because he seems to be sort of alternating his 2-point returns with his high-scoring returns, a bit like Son.
Yeah, no, very true. It's just we've obviously got midfielders in the game that seem to be consistently returning at least tiers. So Højbjerg, for instance, has hit passing and tackle tiers, I think, in 3 out of 4 of his teams. I could check that. But someone like him that could consistently return 5s and 7s over someone that maybe gets a 10 and a 2, potentially maybe want someone like Højbjerg who's a bit cheaper. But obviously this team is by no means set, but I've got the coverage there on the spreadsheet for every single captaincy for the next 3-4 weeks. Obviously we know the next 3 weeks of fixtures.
Yeah, I planned all the way up to game week, I think it was 12 or 13. I know we only get the fixtures up until like 9. But I just wanted to make sure their run was solid for a good few weeks. I see you've also got Ayling and Dallas there. They were both in my teams, I think, in Team A and Team B.
Yep.
Which I've moved off of them just because I don't see them getting many clean sheets. I understand you're staying with them because of the potential attacking returns and the shot tiers.
It's the tiers for me. Yeah, the tackle fullbacks in this game seem to be hitting tackle tiers and passing tiers quite a lot. Like Robbo has hit passing tiers in the past 2 games. So he's matching VVD in that case. And it's, again, obviously, if you've got teams bombing down the wings, the fullbacks are likely the first ones there. So I'm trying to go down that route. And I'll see how it goes. It started off really well, but it's just trying to maintain consistency. I don't want to burn too many transfers between now and, say, Boxing Day, because from what I've heard, from like the SkyPod and obviously Planet FPL, I think it's key to keep as many transfers as you can going into the second half of the season, because you start to get the blanks and the doubles that we'll have to deal with. And the more transfers you hold, the better chance you have of like gaining rank towards the end of the season, which is why I'm presuming they're all saying don't worry about your rank for now, because I think we've seen that the top 10 have used on average 15 transfers so far.
Yeah, it's insane. I see those posts where they've got like the top 10, the top 1K, the top 10K, how many transfers they used. Used way more than us.
Yeah,
I think
madness.
you barely used one. I've used one or two, but they've used like 5, 6, 7, 8
Yeah.
transfers.
So it shows that you're in quite a good position, even if someone's 50, 60 points ahead of you. From what I'm hearing, like for each transfer, it's probably worth 10 to 12 points, like towards the end of the season. So if you've got 16 transfers left for the final, say 10 game weeks, you could potentially gain 160 points on someone that doesn't have any left because they're stuck. So that's what I'm really enjoying, and it's the kind of tactical side of things about Sky that I think is the most interesting about this game.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to it. Like a lot to consider. Like I'm writing off the Leeds fullbacks, but obviously their shot tiers and stuff come into it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that it took me a while to get my head around, like this whole passing tier, and obviously it's tier 1 and tier 2. You've got passing tiers, tackle tiers, shot tiers, and then man of the match bonuses. And there's some gems in there. Like obviously I picked Højbjerg just because I enjoyed him, and I picked Oriol Romeu. They were both hitting tackle tiers, and obviously they both got a goal and an assist between them for game week 4, which was brilliant given they're only 7 million. Can't really complain about that. Exactly. In this game, that's peanuts. You only pick 11 players. You've got no subs, so you're kind of reliant on the consistency of returns. But it's nice to see that defensive midfielders are rewarded as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're both a pair of tough cookies. They're going to get you the tackle tiers. They're good, solid players.
They really are. No, exactly. There's some other ones out there that are probably a bit like a rich tea, bit soggy when dipped. But
yeah, one dips.
Well, yeah, exactly. So
stand up. You've seen that.
Yeah, the ones that just consistently return you 2 points and do nothing in the game. We don't really want to get anywhere near those players. But no, I think that's our overview on Sky. What have you enjoyed about the game the most so far?
Bit weird, but the tiers, I guess. Like it's quite a nice surprise. Like you log on, you think your team's done shit, and then you realise that one of your left backs has had an absolute blinder in terms of tiers, or made a load of tackles and got a couple of points for you.
Yeah.
So you think the clean sheet's gone and it's all fucked, but in reality, it isn't.
Exactly, like that. That's probably one of the key points for me. Was I think that I hit 124 points with my second team in the last game week. I think about 50 of those points came from tier points because, like I was just counting the likes of, obviously Liverpool were out of it. So VVD kind of saved it a little bit with passing tier. But yeah, like Højbjerg hit passing and tackle tiers. You've got Romeu obviously hit tackle tier and he's got his goal. It's those kind of rewards that you're like, oh, I've picked a player that he's not, a brilliant FPL asset, but he's actually quite a good Sky asset. So it's the two different mind frames. And I think the other thing I'm really enjoying, and I quite enjoy it anyway, is the fact it's very planning based. So you have to think ahead. So
I'm enjoying doing the spreadsheets. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, you love a good spreadsheet. I know that. But yeah, I think without the spreadsheet that I've got, I'd really struggle because I find it difficult to look at future fixtures and then go from there. But to see it in front of me and to know that I've got a plan for 3 or 4 game weeks worth of captaincies is brilliant. Really enjoying it. It's a completely different mindset to FPL. So.
Yeah, no, agreed. I'm enjoying the two different dynamics between them. I have to sort of get into the Sky frame of mind when I'm thinking about Sky and my FPL frame of mind with FPL. Exactly. I mean, I don't really have to adjust for FPL. That's my default frame of mind.
Yeah. Well, talking of FPL, should we jump on that then?
Yeah, let's.
Right. I think we should potentially go into the good and the bad of FPL so far. Obviously, now that we've got the international break, there's a bit of a time to reflect. And one of us is doing considerably worse than the other. So, yeah, that's me.
As I say, don't hurry.
No, so I'm sat at the moment at 3.2 mil, whereas you're 400k. This is the worst start I've ever had to FPL. I've not been this low in the rankings, since I began, really. But weirdly, I don't feel bad about my team, which is an odd predicament to be in. Like normally you'd be like, I've got him. Why have I got him? I'm stuck with this player. But I've got, my team at the moment, for instance, is Egan, Trent, Ayling, Foden, Podence, De Bruyne, Salah, Werner, Calvert-Lewin, Jimenez. Like, as a starting 11, I think it's fine. And the fixtures are there. It's just I'm not getting the returns, even though I've got DCL, which is mad. But I don't want to burn my wild card because I think it's going to be so key towards that middle of the season that I'm holding it. I was very tempted to react before the international break with a hit. But again, with the whole COVID situation and, injuries over internationals, I've held. And the more I've looked at it, the more I've thought, now I'll hold.
Yeah, it's the COVID that puts me off wild carding. I don't think if I think COVID wasn't about, I think I'd have done it this game week. I would have had 2 solid weeks to toy with my team.
Yep.
Capitalise on a few price rises and get ready to attack the next few game weeks. But I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 12, 50 players could fall out due to COVID. We don't know. Like
Exactly.
We've got Tierney, we've got Armstrong, we got Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously, but that may affect the Wolves team. The potential for disruption is large.
Yeah, we've already seen Mane missed out because of COVID. Thiago missed out because of COVID. You've had Keita that has had it over the international break. Like, players are getting it, and they can't just turn around and let them play. They have to isolate. And
Exactly.
we might only find out a day before, like with Mane. We found out 24 hours before the game kicked off. So
yeah, terrible luck for Mane owners. Like you've got a top end of 11 million asset there going to waste.
Yeah,
it's something that you can't predict, obviously, as well. So it's just tough luck. I mean, it could happen to Salah. Like we don't know.
Yeah, no, I think
that got on Twitter there. Not bad.
Well, yeah, there's so many people on Twitter that are struggling that I'm seeing, and I think it's the unpredictability, like you've touched on there, both in terms of COVID, but even in terms of results. Like we've seen some unpredictable results to start this season, whether that's down to a lack of pre-season, whether it's down to there being no fans in the stadium. It could be a mix of all of those, but I'm hoping and praying that things start to even out a bit and a bit of normality, at least Premier League wise. We're never going to get normal for a while, but in Premier League, we might see a bit of normality moving forward. And, the likes of Liverpool and Man City and Wolves become good team again, because they've not become bad teams overnight. You're not going to see Liverpool lose 7-2 again, not for a long time. So
no, I hope we do return back to normality. I hope the teams obviously regain fitness and it become. I mean, it is fun seeing these results. I'm not gonna lie, it's good. It's good entertainment. But in terms of FPL, where you want a bit more predictability going on, it would be nice for a more kind of usual set of results coming in.
Oh God,
make clean sheets for our defenders.
Well, we'd hope so. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm loving the fact that the games are so fun to watch. Obviously, we've had a couple of bore fests, but like the Leeds Man City game was probably one of the best games I've ever watched on TV. Like the tactical kind of orgasm. Yeah, as Planet FPL put it. That's the word. But just the mindsets of those two managers and the players just going head to head. Like, it was unbelievable to watch. And then obviously we had the fun and the thrills of the Man United Spurs game, and then the Villa Liverpool game. Like, because we can't be in a stadium, it's brilliant to at least see those games on TV. Even though we've got the issue of having to fucking pay for Sky and BT box.
Do a whole video on the £15 announcement. Absolutely outrageous, and people will definitely not resort to online streaming websites.
No, not at all. We're not. Yep, we are not condoning streaming at all. Okay, it's fine. All right. Here's a question: what's been your biggest mistake in FPL so far?
I say it's arguably not a mistake, more just an oversight, but not having DCL. I think it's been painful not owning him. But if you asked me at the start of the season who I'd rather have, Martial or DCL, I'd have picked Martial again. We can't see the future.
Nope.
We can only see the past. The past was a bit of a dodgy back end of the season for DCL, so therefore he wasn't in my team.
Yep.
Martial had a great back end of last season. So that's the logic behind that decision. Mistake-wise, maybe being too slow to react to price changes potentially, because my team's now just worth 100 million on the dot, whereas a lot of teams are worth a hell of a lot more, like 1 or 2 mil more already. So potentially being slow to change. But however, I've not had any points hits, so it could be a good point as well.
It could be, yeah. Like I think mine is a similar vein. So obviously I've got DCL, but I think my biggest mistake was being too reactive on moving Ings to Martial. Again, like it was the whole, Man United are back. They're going to be, fit and firing. They were brilliant at the end of last season. I'll bring Martial in. That move cost me about 30 points in terms of like swing, which isn't great. And I think the other thing is maybe holding Werner too long. And now I'm at the point where I feel like I have to hold him because, I've kept him. He's dropped 0.2 million. But now that I'm seeing that Pulisic, Ziyech, Havertz are all fit, that's who I want to see him play with. But I should have really gone for, I'm going to keep an eye on him, but I won't bring him in until he's playing alongside the players that I think will benefit him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, I'd say. It's hard to take him out, I'd say, ahead of playing against our defence.
Yeah.
As well as we have played on occasion, we still generally have a bad defence.
We've not come up against a true test, in my opinion, either.
And I think Werner could get his first sort of return in this game, proper return.
Yeah, like obviously I want Saints to win. I would want them to win every day of the week. But if we can win 4-3 and Werner scores a hat-trick, I'll be happy. But yeah, I think that's general consensus about FPL. Should we have a quick look at game week 5 then, just to touch on?
I think so, yeah.
I think there's some tasty fixtures, particularly on the Saturday. We've obviously got the Merseyside derby, which is the 12:30 kickoff. So remember, 11 a.m. deadline UK time.
Really looking forward to that one. Can't wait to see, because like Everton are the new improved Everton, to be honest. So I think they're going to give them a real good go. And Liverpool don't look too great, obviously.
No. Well, yeah, I think it'll be a really good game, and it's probably the perfect game for Liverpool to come back to, like we've said, because they don't want to go to Everton and lose. So I'm hoping that they'll go all guns blazing. We've obviously got Chelsea, Southampton, which we've touched on, and then we've got Man City, Arsenal, which I think will be a cracker. Obviously, we've got the news about KDB and his injury that no one really seems to understand. I mean, he's been pictured riding a bike with the Belgium squad, but isn't fit enough to play. And Man City are now saying, or the Man City Express are now saying that, he's a major doubt for the game and blah, blah, blah. But I still think he'll play.
Yeah, I think he should play, but yeah, we'll see what they say in the press conference.
Yeah, I mean, not that Pep gives anything away, does he?
No.
And then obviously we've got Newcastle, Man United. Man United will be looking to bounce back. I'm really interested to see who plays up top, because obviously Martial is suspended and Cavani is still isolating, so he can't play either. So will it be Rashford through the middle, or will they put a Gallo in there? Like, that would be one to keep an eye on.
Probably Rashford, I'd say, but if I was a Gallo, I'd be a bit annoyed that I'm not being given the chance.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially now that they've brought Cavani in as well. Like, it probably moves a Gallo again down the pecking order. But Sunday we've got Sheffield United, Fulham. Not really that interested. Palace, Brighton again. It's one for Sky. I think we've both got maybe Brighton asset or two. But then we've got Spurs, West Ham, which is always a good game. Really,
yeah, it's the last for me in this day.
Really enjoy that game. And then Leicester play Villa, which I'm really intrigued to see how Villa play again, because their assets are definitely on my radar. I'm not jumping just yet, but really on my radar after that last performance. And then on Monday, we've got obviously West Brom, Burnley. Nah. No offence to the Burnley West Brom fans. And then I think it will be a really good game. Leeds Wolves.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how, if they start Traore, how he gets on against the fullbacks of Leeds. that'd be an interesting battle. See if the fullbacks still bomb forward or if they have to stay a bit back because they're wary of Traore. That'd be. Well, I hope he starts. To be honest, just for the sake of it.
The only worry about Traore starting is if he starts, I don't think Podence starts, and I've got Podence, so
I'm all for it. Bring on Traore, and then he can set up Jimenez, so it's all good. It's all good.
You cheeky bastard. But no, it will be good tactically to see how Wolves deal with Leeds, because I don't think Leeds are really going to change in terms of how they play. Like, they seem to be playing like the kind of back four against tougher teams, and like Ayling and Dallas obviously is wing backs, but Dallas seems to move into midfield against some of the lesser teams, which I've noticed. So that's one to maybe keep an eye on as well, which is another reason why I've put him on my Sky team. Right, I've seen a couple of articles about the way Leeds have set up tactically and how he's the one that's kind of pushing a bit further forward. So I think it's going to be a really good game week 5, and hopefully we get to see a couple of these new signings that teams have made as well kind of come into action. Whether we see the likes of Gareth Bale returning for Spurs against West Ham, it'd be good to see him back in a Spurs shirt. Will Aguero be fit? Who knows? He's been pictured in training. And Theo might even make an appearance for Saints, albeit, well, actually, he might make a full appearance because Armstrong's got COVID. So that'd be
good. Good to see our boy.
Exactly.
Back on the town.
Yeah. So
I think I'm looking forward to potentially Aguero coming back. I think Aguero and even Bale, if they both score 1 or 2, I think people will be rushing to get them in their team.
Absolutely, yeah. And Bale's price slightly higher than Son, so I think that's maybe going to hold off that transfer a little bit. But Aguero, like we said, is 10.5 million. It's an absolute bargain for Aguero. So I'd be looking at it. But talking of prices, I sent out a tweet earlier in the day that people have noticed. There's some real bargains at the moment in terms, like, obviously you've mentioned about price drops and your team being 100 mil, but the likes of Antonio, Saint-Maximin, Pepe, Pulisic, Werner have all dropped by 0.2 million or more. So you can get them for $1 million cheaper for those 5 players than what you could have got at the start of the season. So I wouldn't worry about your team value for now, to be fair.
Yeah, I think there's some great options there. I think Antonio and Martial for me. I mean, they're both players that I wanted in my team. I had Martial. Antonio was in a draft, but both I'd quite happily have in my team at such a cheap price as well.
Agreed. Now, well, good luck for game week 5.
And you, mate.
Right, let's move on to what I am incredibly excited about, is the return of ChampMan. So for anybody that hasn't played the game, I thoroughly recommend to do so. But if anybody isn't interested in ChampMan at all, then you can probably turn off now, because that's going to be the focus for the next 10 minutes before we touch on questions. But you're going to be joining us this season, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I'm going to give it a go. I think it's a great idea. I'm thoroughly looking forward to some of the nostalgia involved, the likes of Mark Viduka, Shearer, Omri. The list goes on.
Honestly, you'll love it. I know you're incredibly nostalgic when it comes to those 90s and early 90s players, and you'd have loved it if you had managed to get involved. I know there was a few technicals, I think, with you getting involved the first time round, but the game has improved so much. Obviously, it started with those Excel spreadsheets. There's now a full-blown website. There's resource pages about all the data. Honestly, it's incredible. Like, as soon as I seen that they were announcing the fact that it was coming back, I was buzzing. Like, so happy. It genuinely got me through lockdown. Just to see, obviously, it was set up by FPL Tactician, Simple Gull, and James Laprin. So Andy, Dave, and James. Fair play to them, because they brought a community together. And the way just to see how the game has unfolded and to have gone from those simple Excel spreadsheets, well, I say simple, it genuinely took James Laprin probably 5-6 hours to sort them week in, week out for deadlines and transfers and stuff. So fair play. But now it's moved to a website, I think it's a lot simpler. But have you got any questions then as a newbie to the game? And I'm more than happy to answer it for you. And it might even help newbies that are listening to the podcast.
I'd say, based on when you were watching the game, obviously 10, 15 years ago, how accurate would you say the results are based on?
quite accurate, but you do get some strange results. So, for instance, there's a thing called Rep 12, which is something to keep an eye out for, and you'll probably hear that term mentioned quite a lot. So, for instance, Arsenal, if they're playing a Rep 12 team, the game deems that team to be poor. So Arsenal will then put out a Rep 12 squad. They rested an entire starting 11 for a game last season, which caught everybody out. And Man United did exactly the same. So you do get those odd anomalies, but you will get major holes. Like a player could score like 3 or 4 goals, no problem in a game, and you want to be on it. So yeah, in terms of results, you'll generally still get, it's like the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, the Liverpools, the Chelseas. They're kind of like working their way up. And for instance, Saints got relegated last season, and in the 2002-2003, that was like, we got the FA Cup final, and then it was kind of the start of our downfall. So it's pretty accurate in terms of that.
Do you have a 11 or is it a 15? Do you have a bench?
Yeah, so the game is pretty much exactly the same as FPL. So you get 100 million to spend. You've got the player prices that the guys set up. You get 2 wildcards. You get a bench boost, a triple captain. You also get 15 players. And then obviously you pick your captaincy week in, week out. The only difference is obviously they don't have a BPS system as such. So what they go on is the match rating. So
highest one, is it?
Yeah. So if they give it 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point, you have to have scored more than a 7 in the game to get a match rating. And say 2 players are on 10. Whoever's highlighted in blue will get the 3 points. Then the next 10 will get 2 points. And then say there's 4 people on 8, you'll get 1 point. Bonus points are massive in this game. So I've got some data in front of me now, which is from Whitebeard's site, which is what I highly recommend looking at the resources page on the website when you sign up. But for instance, last season, Ruud van Nistelrooy got 53 bonus points. So there were times in the game when he didn't even score, he'd get an assist. But because he's winning headers, he's playing passes, he's making the runs, getting shots off, the game counts all of that information. So he will then pick up 2 bonus points when he's got a 3-point return. And then suddenly you've got 5 points. So if you've captained him at 10. There's also players like Herman Hreidarsson became a bit of a legend in the game.
Really?
Genuinely.
Charles, wasn't he?
No, he was Ipswich.
At the time.
Okay, 2002 Champman. Yeah, so he was a £4.5 million defender. Everyone had written off Ipswich defence. They suddenly became like a cheat code. They'd keep clean sheets. And Hreidarsson got 46 bonus points. So if Ipswich ever kept a clean sheet, guaranteed he got a 9 or a 10 match rating and he'd get 3 BPS straight away. So him and Jerry Taggart for Leicester was also kind of a BPS magnet. So it's these little ones that you want to keep an eye out.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
The sign up to the website, once it goes live, is so simple. All you do is you input your Twitter handle and then sign up that way. And then you'll come up. And then you manage your transfers and stuff through the website. There's none of this spreadsheet business anymore. So yeah, it's really, really useful.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
No, good.
Who are your favourite classic players?
I think for me, it had to be Mark Viduka last season. He was unbelievable in the game. He was priced 3 million less than Ruud van Nistelrooy and Thierry Henry, who you deem to be like the big players as a forward role. But he got 20 more points than like Ruud van Nistelrooy. He finished with 248 points last season.
I'm guessing he was at Leeds in this game.
Yes, yeah. So he was at Leeds.
Harry Kewell feeding him, giving him assists? Or?
Yeah, so Harry Kewell was a funny one because there was games where he'd play and then he'd go missing for 3 games. He just wouldn't be in the squad. So he was another one of these things where the sim just seemed to kind of, whether it's a manager like protocol or whatnot, he just didn't seem to appear sometimes. So he was one that people got caught out by. Ian Hart, on the other hand, who was the Leeds fullback at the time.
The kick taker.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He was banging free kicks in the game. He was probably one of the highest defenders. Got 5 goals, 8 assists, 150 points. So you can think of him more as like the Trent Alexander-Arnold of the game.
Put him in the team.
Yeah, so people like him, it's worth keeping an eye of. And Juan Sebastian Veron is probably the name you'll hear a lot. In our Chapman season, at the very beginning, everybody had him because from all the sim data that people had ran, he was exceptional. He flopped so hard, crumbled like a biscuit in this game to start with. And then he slowly got going, but he ended up with 165 points. And the amusing thing of this game was I think he ended up having 4 weeks out because he went to see a psychotherapist or a physiotherapist, one of the two. But that was the reason for him missing out for 4 game weeks. So you do get the weird anomalies like stub toes. You'll hear a lot about stub toes in this game.
You mean like a psychiatrist? Because it would be fairly logical for him to see a physiotherapist because that's just...
It might have been, yeah. It was one of the two. I get confused.
Okay. Are there any more like flops that have actually done quite well in the game?
Good question. Let's have a quick look. You had, I wouldn't say flop, but Kevin Phillips was only a point behind Ruud van Nistelrooy, despite being £3.5 million cheaper.
He won the Golden Boot. I wouldn't call him a flop.
You've got the postman Alan Johnson. So you might not even remember him. He played for Middlesbrough. He was the 5th highest point scorer in the game. He ended up getting 180 points, 9 goals and 9 assists for Middlesbrough, and 21 bonus points. But yeah, everybody started calling him the postman because he always delivered. Honestly.
What about Saints? What about Chris Marsden? How's he got?
Oh, let's have a quick look. Club. I can go to the Saints. Honestly, Saints were shocking. We got relegated with about 8 games to go. We were dreadful. Let's have a quickly get it up on the screen. Yeah, so you got the likes of Marian Pahars. We've got the likes of Anders Svensson, which we've got a bit of a, snip in for later on. But they didn't score very well. No, I made the mistake of going Wayne Bridge to start with, thinking, oh yeah, love a bit of Bridgie. Fucking useless. So I wouldn't worry about Saints anymore. And we're not even in the game, so you don't have to get stuck on the nostalgia this time. You don't even have to worry about it. Fulham also got relegated, so they weren't that great. But teams such as Blackburn did quite well. Sunderland did well.
Is Pedersen on there?
Yeah. So Henrik Pedersen. Well, you got Henrik Pedersen for Bolton. He was brilliant in the game, and he was only £7.5 million as a forward. He was the 14th best player in the game. So players like him, the key thing for this game is you want to find the differentials and the cheaper players, because the guys, and I've seen some of the pricing so far, honestly, it's ridiculous. You're talking, obviously, we've already had Van Nistelrooy and Henry at 13 million. I can see there being a few more this season. So I think you're going to love it.
I'm looking forward to getting stuck in, putting the likes of Lauren Robert in my team, all the great players.
Yeah, Lauren Robert, Nobby Solano was exceptional. Yeah. Honestly, he was so good. I got on him really early, and he helped me out. I didn't finish that great. I finished 270th, which was quite a poor end. I've seen people obviously top 10 and top 100. So my aim is to be a bit more consistent this season. But I didn't really understand the kind of sim data and all that to start with. So once I got on board with that, it was a lot more helpful. And then Whitebeard's site, just having the time to analyze it, really helped. Talking of Chapman, the guys have been brilliant, and they have given us some exclusives for you Chapman players out there. So the first one you might have already seen. We've been given this because we're both avid Saints fans, so thank you very much. Anders Svensson obviously signed for Man City from Southampton once we've been relegated. He is going to come in to the game at £7 million. So a rise of 1 million, but he's now at a better club. Surely he'll improve on the 113 points that he got last season with 7 goals and 4 assists. So one to keep an eye on. But yeah, that's Anders Svensson at 7 million. The other player that we've been fortunate to get the price reveal for is a whippersnapper of a fullback. Now, this fullback is Ashley Cole at Arsenal. His price remains at 6.5 million. So I think he could be a really good asset again this season. Last season, he only
Best ever
got
Premier League left back, in my opinion.
100%. Well, he only got 3 assists last season. But I think talking to some of the guys, we're expecting a lot more. So that's your 2 price reveals. You've got Anders Svensson at 7 and Ashley Cole at 6.5. So if you've managed to get this far in the pods, there's your reveals. Should we jump on the questions then? Because we've got a few questions, and I know quite a few of these are ChampMan. So sorry about that, James, but it shows the excitement of the game, you know. But we'll start on one question that you will be able to jump on from Steve Bird. With so many crazy results, are VVD and KDB still almost must-haves in Sky?
I would say so, yes. Based on their track record in terms of like their points totals from last season, and I don't see KD slowing down for assists or goals anytime soon. I think providing he's starting playing, he's always going to be an extreme threat and capable of scoring 20 points at least in just one single game. I think Van Dijk is more than capable as well, providing they keep a clean sheet of matching that. He can score. He's so good in the air. Every time he goes forward for a corner, I think he's going to head one in, and he regularly does, to be honest. I think you could go the fullbacks instead of him potentially. I think KDB is probably maybe more important in terms of the game, but Van Dijk, I think, has historically been, in terms of value and pure points in the Sky game, kind of a must-have, and I think you'd feel silly if you did ditch him, maybe.
Yeah, that'd probably be my response. I think, obviously, as newbies, we were kind of told, and we could see from historic data, that VVD and KDB were essentially essential. But we obviously hate that word in FPL. But I think in Sky game, you do generally have these kind of players. If Aguero stays fit, then maybe he could be an alternative Man City option. And like you said, with VVD, at the moment, Robertson is matching him. So that we could see that consistently through the season. But in terms of the tiers that we've mentioned, VVD and KDB just seem to hit them time and time again. So I think for consistency, they're probably 2 that you could keep with.
Yeah, I'd agree. VVD obviously tends to get the passing too. He loves playing a pass, spreading it about across through the back for the midfield. He's one you want in your team, really.
Agreed. All right, we've got another question, and apologies for these, but they are going to be ChampMan related. You might learn a bit about the game, which is good. But another question from Steve Bird. Is there a price in ChampMan at which you wouldn't sign Viduka or Ruud van Nistelrooy? And are there any players that you might think are absolute bargains this season? So like I've mentioned to you, Viduka and Ruud van Nistelrooy were the top 2 point scorers in the game. Viduka got 248 and Van Nistelrooy got 228. I'd say Viduka was massively undervalued. He was only 10 million last season, and he outscored Ruud van Nistelrooy by 20 points, despite the 3 million difference in price tag. So that was one that people kind of, if they could jump on it, they did, and it really helped the rest of the depth of the squad. I think this season we'll see both of them. The guys seem to be pricing people a lot higher, so I think we'll see both at least 13.5 million. So if you want to get both in, straight away, that's £27 million of your £100 million budget gone for 15 players. So I think this season we could see that we will need to find those cheaper differential assets. So obviously we found them last season: Herman Hreidarsson, Jerry Taggart, £4.5 million defenders that consistently scored. We've seen Matt Jansen, and Henrik Pedersen. They've now been priced at 10 million and 9.5 million. So it's showing again the increase that they're putting in players. So I really think we're going to have to find some bargains that maybe we'll have to jump on quite early in the season. Andy Martin, FPL tactician. So he is one of the ChampMan co-creators that I mentioned, James, and basically known as ChampMan royalty now. Do you have an idea in mind about what formation you will be playing in ChampMan? So for me, given the price rises that these bastards are putting in so far, last season I played a lot of 3-4-3, 3-5-2, like you would in FPL. I think we could maybe see a move to bigger at the back this season. There seems to be a lot more cheaper defensive assets, fullbacks, and kind of continuous bonus point scores that we could maybe jump on, because it's going to be really difficult, I think, to get in 3 or 4 premiums. So that's probably my thinking about that. I think we might see bigger at the back, which would be good to see.
Okay. Based on what you've just said, I think I might do a 4-4-2 with the prices.
No, agreed. And obviously, you're still going to pick like you do in FPL, so you can rotate if you have to. But I think you might find some better options at 4-4-2. Got another question from FPL Teach Mode. How will you follow the flawless pod made about ChampMan last year? Can't remember who did it now. I can tell you who did that, James. That was FPL Teach Mode and Irons from the Wolfpack. They both got together and, to be fair, did a brilliant ChampMan pod. Did it weekly for everybody that was kind of playing the game. And there's no way that we're going to kind of keep up with that. And obviously, we're only doing 1 pod a week. So we'll mention ChampMan and we'll talk about how much fun we're having when the game starts. But it won't be a dedicated ChampMan pod. We'll still touch on, the other 2 games that we play and keep it consistent for the listeners. He also asks, which players will you never own because they burnt you so badly in ChampMan last season? Well, one answer for this, Thierry fucking Henry. He was 13 million in the game. He got subbed 50th minute at least 3 times, I think.
Oh, dear.
He was missing from the game entirely. There'd be games where he looked nailed, according to sim data, to Hall, did fuck all. When you see other players like, Matt Jansen and Pedersen getting, 2-3 goals on the games that they were playing. And given he was priced the same as Van Nistelrooy, he scored 50 points less than him and 70 points less than Viduka. So Thierry Henry, stay away.
Bin.
Bin him. The other one maybe would be Juan Sebastian Veron. I got burned by him at the start of the season. Again, he was very expensive. He was 12 million last season.
I'd never put him in.
Yeah. So,
based on real life.
Yes, if you based it on real life, you wouldn't touch him, would you? But if you based it on ChampMan and sim data, he's a legend in the game. Like, he'd consistently get 20, 25 attack and returns a season. Last season, he got 17, which, sounds like a lot. But for him, his price and his historical sim data from everybody, that was a very poor season. So I'm hoping to see more from him in season 2. That's the end of the questions. Do you have any other questions before we finish, James?
I'm sure I'll think of some more before I start crafting my team for ChampMan eventually when it all gets kicked off.
No, definitely.
But yeah, no, I think we've covered it all.
No, good man. I think it genuinely, for those that are looking to get involved, just keep an eye on at Fantasy ChampMan on Twitter. The guys will probably announce in the next couple of weeks when the game's going to start. And I know that it's going to be a Thursday deadline and Thursday game weeks. So yeah, it'll clash with Europa League, but it won't clash with your FPL teams. Right. Well, I think that calls it on. We've just about hit an hour, as we always do now. So it's goodbye from me, James, and been a pleasure talking to you, mate.
Yeah, you too. It's been great. I hope you've enjoyed listening.
Cheers,